One of the biggest challenges is, in fact, that our academic centers are basically set up to fundamentally incentivize basic research or clinical care, but they're not really set up to incentivize people that do this middle part that we talk about. By that, I mean, if you think about it, the way as a scientist I get promoted at Children's Hospital Harvard Medical School is by the number of papers I produce and the number of grants I get. On the other hand, if I'm a physician who's not doing research but is in the clinic basically taking care of patients, the way I make my living is by the number of patients that I take care of. And so neither of those actually reinforce the process of moving things out of the lab into the patient, because number one, on the one hand, it's very hard to get NIH grants to do that, and number two, it's a very inefficient process, and so the number of patients you actually can take care of and interact with is much lower than if you weren't doing that. So you maybe can see that our system kind of at the current way it's set up, doesn't really incentivize this middle part. And there's lots of regulatory complications. There's many things that appear in the laboratory, in preclinical or non-clinical studies, or in mouse studies, in models that appear to be quite like they're going to be very successful. But most of those actually never end up being successful in a patient. So the dropout rate is huge. Children's is invested very much in basic science cores that can be used by many different investigators that are not logical for one lab to have because they're very expensive or they're not used very often. Same way on the clinical side. But there's also a need for those kinds of or similar types of shared services to support these very early phase pilot and feasibility or phase 1 studies in human beings. And a complex organization like we have in most academic medical centers it is the case that it's often that basic scientists and clinical physician types actually speak different languages, go in different circles, and don't interact a lot. And I think in my experience and that of other people that do this kind of thing, one of the real important things to do to try to stimulate translational research is to build systems by which these two groups of people interact more, so that the basic scientists can understand the questions that are the questions and the opportunities that are present in the clinic, and physicians that are primarily doing clinical work can understand where the basic science is coming from and what's their opportunities there are from the basic science side to be translated into patients.